You're listening to Pato's Powerhouse. Pato's Powerhouse.
What up, motherfuckers and motherfuckerettes? Welcome to another episode of Pato's Powerhouse. I am your host, Pato Morningstar, and today, I am very glad you are tuning in and joining me because, well, what can I say? It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day to be alive. It is very, 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 very interesting how sometimes you go back and listen to yourself and you hear something that puts everything into perspective. Last episode, I talked about, obviously, what everybody else was talking about, the slap heard around the world. And if you haven't heard about that, obviously you have been living under a rock. And it was basically Will Smith slapping the shit out of Chris Rock at the Oscars. So anyway, yeah, I'm not going to go into that. I mean, the internet is going wild and it doesn't look like they're going to let up anytime soon. I mean, shit keeps popping up. I mean, it sucks to be them right now. But I mean, that is kind of the consequences when you're a public figure and you lose your cool. I mean, it is what it is, right? Well, what I'm saying, if I'm saying anything, is that, I listen to my podcasts for quality control. To see how many so I'm inserting before every sentence. To see how many all the stuff. See, I just inserted a right there because it becomes a bad habit that the less I podcast, the crazier or the harder it becomes. It's funny, the words just seem to go elsewhere whenever we hit the record button. I was remembering when we first started, I mean, that was one of the things that K-Dog and I used to listen to for when we did our podcast. Of course, when there's two people doing the podcast, it's a lot easier because you're bouncing off each other. But when you're doing something like this bite-sized podcast that I do, which is basically a monologue, it's basically me pouring my heart and soul out to you. No, not really. It's basically me, just having a conversation with you guys, but it's obviously a one-sided conversation. It's a monologue, nobody to bounce ideas off except myself. And sometimes you get ahead of yourself because you got all these ideas going through your head. And as you are talking, you're thinking, and sometimes you think you finished the sentence that you were, spitting out. And when you go back and listen to yourself, you realize that you made a turn without putting on the turning signal, without letting the person know that, hey, I was talking about this, but this other idea came to my head, and now I'm talking about this other thing, without switching lanes, without doing my signals, before turning to the lane. See what I'm saying? Right now, I am struggling to get this out. Why? Because I'm self-conscious. After listening to a few episodes, I was like, damn, fell back into the old bad habits. What's going on? Well, what's going on is lack of practice. I mean, K-Dog has been a hard-working motherfucker lately, and he has very little time. And I am always a hard-working motherfucker, so I have no time. So it's become very hard to find a compatible time for Florida and Arizona to get together and have that middle-aged 9-year-old conversations that we have. It is hard. And when we do that, obviously we stop podcasting and we don't practice. It's a skill that we have to hone in. Also, lately I haven't been feeling well, so I've been using that as an excuse not to get behind the microphones. And of course, the less I do it, the more the and they come back. It's one of those things like walking, using your legs. My old man used to say, use them or lose them. May he rest in peace. And I gotta say, speech is the same thing. I mean, and a lot of it is our fault because we spend so much time on social media just texting back to people. We rarely communicate. I mean, with our voice. I mean, we communicate through text. In fact, a lot of people, as a joke, have it on their voicemail. The person you are trying to reach is not available. If you have anything important to say, please send me a text message or something to that effect. I mean, this is where we're at right now. Seriously, we communicate very little, and for me, it's starting to affect me. I guess, it's like, okay, I gotta get back into the podcasting thing. Not so much because I'm trying to be this podcasting star or whatever. Mainly just for the sake of being able to communicate verbally, to be able to use my words to communicate. Wow. Have you ever sat back for a while after you had a conversation with someone? And I know we all do this. And we sit there and we replay everything that went on. And we're always thinking, this is what I should have said. This is what I should have, when this person told me such and such and such and such, I should have interjected with this, or I should have given this type of advice. Another thing that I'm focusing a lot is on listening to what people are telling me and responding accordingly, and not just responding to have a response, not just saying something just to get my word in. Like, a lot of the times we say the stupidest things and we look like fucking morons because, a lot of the times we're not really paying attention to what people are telling us. We're just there to interject my response, like, not really saying anything that is helpful or even relevant to the conversation. A lot of the times it's just to, either sometimes when we're young, we think we know it all, so we interject with our smart-ass comments because we think that, what happened to you is not going to happen to me. But, that is one of those things that right now, as I am getting older, which, it's funny, last month, beginning of the month, March, I had a birthday. And the day after, the check engine came light for me and sciatica started kicking my ass. It wasn't until March 31st, and this is 3 days ago or 2 days ago. What is this today? April 3rd, I think? I'm not even sure. To be honest, I lose track of time real easy. I spend all my time at work, which all these things that I'm saying right now are building up to that moment. What I'm saying is that, it's April 3rd. I had to look on my phone. Sorry, guys. Anyway, what I'm saying, if I'm saying anything, is that my birthday was early March, and the entire month of March, practically, I spent it in pain. There was a time when I was thinking, so this is it? Am I going to have to start using a cane? And then my car broke down, so I had to use my motorcycle, which, of course, my motorcycle's a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. I love bike riding, but not when I'm in pain. So that was one of the things that was preventing me from healing the proper way. And of course, the doctor suggested what I should do, but my bills determined what I did. So I think it took me longer to heal. And quite honestly, by the end of the month, I was thinking wow, is this what it, the closer you get to 5-0, the closer, the check engine keeps coming on. I just keep noticing that. I'm not a youngster anymore. I turned 48. I don't like to make a big deal. Usually I like to fly under the radar. But, that was last month. And, bottom line, as I went ahead and told you all these stories and everything that we're going through, and the reasons why I listen to my podcast, not just because I'm a self-centered bastard that likes to listen to his own voice, but I listen to see all the mistakes and the progress and the regress, everything that's going on. And one thing I said is I spend too much time at work. And I started thinking, if you want to know where Pato is, 9 times out of 10, Pato's at work. At the beginning of the week, you could say, Sunday's the first day of the week. The first 4 days, he spends most of his time at his day job. And then Wednesday, he does a double whammy and goes to his night job. So he works daytime and then nighttime. And then on paper, it appears that he has Saturday off, but not really, because you see, he gets off work that morning. So when he gets off work very tired. And chances are that Saturday, I'm going to sleep right through it. I was thinking about all that. You know, how I need to figure out something, you know, with my bills, with my budget. I need to figure something out in order to make it work so that I can live a little more. And by what I mean by living outside work, because that's basically what I do. Work. I mean, back in the day, you know, this coworker, which actually she's no longer with us. No, not like that. She moved on to bigger, better things. You know what I'm saying? And she's usually a listener for Cursory Overload. And sometimes when she's bored, I guess she'll listen to Pato. But what I'm saying, if I'm saying anything, she used to look at me and say that my theme song was that Rihanna song. Work. And when I was feeling good, I was like, hey, you know, yeah, I guess it is. But this last month, you know, that I spent the entire month dealing with my sciatic nerve, you know, lower back pain, it put a lot of things into perspective. I mean, you know, we do spend a lot of time at work, or I do spend a lot of time at work. And I don't know, maybe I'm talking to you out there somewhere, you know, you're listening and you're like, motherfucker, I live in the same neighborhood you live, you know, I have to work 2 jobs just to make ends meet. And that's the way it is right now. I mean, a lot of us, inflation, you know, and of course, you know, inflation, higher prices, turn everything political. And right now, I want to be clear about one thing, you know, let's be smart about these things here. These huge corporations, you know, the big oil and all these other global entities, they're applying the pressure on us because, you know, right now we have a president in the U.S. who wants to tax the rich. Who are the rich? These big oil companies, these big conglomerates, you know, these huge corporations. So, of course, they're going to put pressure on us so that we think we're doing the right thing by voting Biden out and putting in a puppet that they can use, and we'll give them all the tax breaks that they want. And then they will try to say that, you know, you got to think trickle-down economics, which have never worked. I mean, you know, there's people since the Reagan administration waiting for trickle-down economics, you know, or Reaganomics, as they used to call it, waiting for that shit to happen. It's never happened. It's not going to happen. Human greed is just too fucking powerful. So, without trying to be political or, you know, in fact, I might step on a few landmines right now because that's one of those things that keep me working all the time. Obviously, you know, high food prices, high gasoline prices. In order to be able to afford housing, we move further away from our jobs because the houses were cheaper there. But now it's a pain in the ass because the fuel consumption, the commute gets expensive. I mean, I could say that in one of my credit cards, I could say that 60% of my debt there is spent at the pump because I drive an SUV. So I also have to consider that. In fact, that's the reason I got the bike. But then my health started fucking with me and I couldn't ride the bike as much as I wanted to. But anyway, what I'm saying, if I'm saying anything, is that, you know, I know that I am not the only one going through this. There's a lot of people that are struggling, that we're all having to do what we got to do in order to make ends meet. And it's not fun. But somehow, I got to find a way to live a little bit more and live outside work, because that's all I ever do. I spent my time at one job or another. In fact, last night, I was just getting ready to call it a night so that I could sleep overnight and wake up for daytime job. The other job was trying to get me to go in at least 4 hours because somebody called off. So I was like, holy crap. I mean, you know, and there was a time when I would have done it too. But, well, I took medication. So I think that's the only thing that prevented me from actually jumping at it. Because I've been following doctor's orders, not necessarily to the T. I've been doing whatever I can when I can. But such is life, right? So anyway, what I was saying, if I'm saying anything, is that sometimes it's funny how you go back and rethink on conversations